Random thoughts. This is another random thoughts, and it's a reaction to a comment that somebody left me. I'm doing a lot of comment reactions, and there is a video that I did a while back, and I mentioned um, African republics having constitutions, and somebody seemed to have been a little bit confused because um, this person seems to think or to believe that constitutions are something that was brought by the Europeans. So when they hear constitution, they think this is a document that is written, and we did not write such documents in Africa. So it does not make sense that Africans did have constitutions before the arrival of the colonizers. But that comes from wrong understanding of what a constitution is. What a constitution is an agreement, is a contract, is a social contract, is a contract that people choose or agree on or agree upon as a society, and they are like, this is how we are going to live together. This is how we are going to relate. This is how we are going to share power. This is how we are going to manage power. This is how we are going to relate with our neighbors. That's a constitution. This is how we are going to resolve disputes when they arise among the people. This is how we are going to make decisions when it comes to war, for example. This is how we are going to proceed with certain steps or certain tasks as a society. That's a constitution. Now, a constitution, there is no organized society, politically organized society that does not have a constitution. There is none. Every organized society has a constitution. If it has a protocol of how a custom, a tradition of how things are done, that's a constitution. And African republics and even monarchies did have constitutions. And these are understandings or contracts that guided how people behaved, how people got to power, how people exercised power, how people transferred power to others, and things like that. So it does not matter which republic you talk about, the so-called tribes in particular, they did have a constitution. Same case to monarchies like the Buganda kingdom. They did have very elaborate constitutions, actually. And same case to even the sultanates in the Horn of Africa. They did have their own constitutions. The Somalis call it the Hair. These are laws and customs of how people related. Those are constitutions. Now, writing it down does not make it, or does not, or the constitution does not need to be written down for it to be a constitution. Even some of with so-called well-advanced societies have constitutions that are not written. The UK is an example of that. The UK does not have a written constitution. You can find in one huge document that this is the constitution. But they do have a constitution that works very fine. It's not written as a one single document, but it is there. And the other countries have chosen to write their constitutions. And I believe that the concept of writing a constitution is a very recent one. Most societies have had constitutions, but they did not have them written as one huge document. They would have different laws, of course, affecting different aspects of the society. But just one document is more recent, and I would think maybe it's a concept that was popularized by the American founding fathers, or the founding fathers of the American Commonwealth. They are the ones who decided to write it down, and then other commonwealths after them have seen it valuable to write a constitution down. But that does not mean that the written constitution is superior to the unwritten one. In fact, I will argue that the unwritten constitution is superior than the written one. And here is why. The written one has the weakness of being changed so easily that somebody can just decide, oh, we need to change this. It's a matter of going and deleting something and writing something else. Now, the unwritten constitutions, these are customs and traditions and laws that have evolved for a very long time, sometimes for thousands of years. Nobody can wake up one morning and decide we are going to change this to this, because this is a tradition. And I believe in following tradition. I believe that following tradition keeps things a little bit safe. I know there is room for um, being progressive and changing things. There is a good side to that. But when it comes, especially when it comes to political power and political organization, I tend to lean more towards favoring tradition and being a little bit more conservative. And that, because of that, maybe because of that, I would prefer the unwritten constitution, because it's not easy to change at whim. People cannot change it so easily just because of how they feel today. But the written constitution has advantages, of course, and that is things can be very clear, so that there is no, there is little room for disagreeing on what is. But even the unwritten ones, people don't agree so much on what is. And even in the written constitution, of course, there is the issue of interpreting. Different people might interpret different parts of the constitution differently. Of course, that's where the courts are there. The same thing can be for the unwritten constitution, and just the same case, the courts can resolve those. Now, anyway, coming back to the point of the video, Africans did have constitutions. They were the so-called culture, custom, tradition. That was a constitution. And those one guided people on how to live their day-to-day lives, but it also guided on how political decisions are made, and how very critical political decisions are made. Yeah, so Africans did have very elaborate constitutions. Those are my random thoughts.